Hello, Thunder Wizards. So, today I want to talk to you in depth about um the god Ganesha. Whoops, that's not, I want to go this direction. Okay, so the god Ganesha. You know him as the Hindu god of beginnings, the god of good luck, the god of wisdom, specifically the god of learning. He is the elephant headed god. And the title here is the God of Death and Rebirth. So we don't see him as a God of death. We see him as a God of rebirth and new beginnings. So I'm going to get into why he is actually the God of death. And I'm going to share with you also why, right now, let's talk about why he is the most powerful. Well, we could make that argument that he is the most powerful. There's one practical way we know that he is, and that is because he is universally loved in all of the Hindu sects. Now, there are a lot of Hindu sects, a lot of different ones. And a lot of them don't agree with each other. They don't agree with each other, in philosophy, in cosmology. They worship different deities, So even though we see Hindu as a religion, the truth is, Hinduism is a collection of of many different sects. Um, but among them all, they all 100% agree that Ganesha is the god that must be worshipped before you do anything. And we could make the argument he is more powerful than Shiva. And Shiva is seen as the destroyer. Shiva is seen as the king of the gods. But there's a mythological story about Ganesha where Shiva is about to kill a demon. And he's got his bow and his arrow cocked, and he's got his arrow aimed right at this demon who he's going to kill. And he tries to let loose the arrow, and he can't. And he's wondering to himself, I'm Shiva, why am I unable to let loose of the arrow? And he looks at the tip of the arrow, and there Ganesha is sitting. A little tiny Ganesha sitting on the end of the arrow. And he realizes that he must get Ganesha's approval, permission, before he takes the life of this demon. And I was taught, before I do my mantra, whatever my mantra is, that I chant to Ganesha 4 times. Om Shri Ganeshaya Nama. I do that 4 times. Because Ganesha is the power that gets things moving. So I'm not saying to do 2 mantras at the same time. It's just you do 4 repetitions of Ganesha mantra to get things moving. Then you can do your mantra, because you need Ganesha's approval for the beginning of anything. So we can see from this he's extremely powerful. So powerful that Shiva must get his approval. And we can also make the argument that Shiva is the creator of Ganesha, because Ganesha is supposed to be the son of Shiva. And that's a complicated story in and of itself, which we are going to talk about. So, how is Ganesha the god of death when he is the god of beginnings? Let's talk about his name, Ganesha. Ganesha is the Lord of the Ganas. But the seed sound for Ganesha, which is Gang, 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 that is his seed sound. Whenever you see a mantra that has, most of the time you'll see it as gum or gam. And even many Hindus don't understand that M sound on the end of the seed sound is actually an NG sound. So, but whenever you see the gang seed sound in a mantra, it's to get the power of the mantra, to open up, to break through obstacles, to get the power of the mantra to go forward. So the root of the word go in English, go, move, go, is the same root, comes from the same Indo-European root word, gang, to initiate, to get things moving. What is that? The law of, I keep forgetting the name of that law. The law where if something is still, it stays still. If it's moving, it stays moving. That is Ganesha. Ganesha, we need the power of Ganesha to initiate movement. Otherwise, nothing will happen. And so we see him as the god of birth, the god of beginnings. But what we don't understand, and it's a good thing we don't, is that he is the god of death. Because before there is a beginning, there has to be an ending. Whenever you have a marriage, for example, you are encouraged to worship Ganesha, to bless the marriage. Why is that? Because in order to start a life as a married person, you must die to your identity as being single. So you don't realize it, but what you're doing is you are embracing your death as a single person. And until you allow that death to occur, you cannot become married. If you start a business, it's also very popular to chant to Ganesha to start a business. And why is that? Well, because when you start a business, you're creating an identity of yourself as the owner of this business. Or if it's your first business, you are now going from somebody who works for other people to somebody who works for themselves. You're changing your identity. You're dying to your old identity of being, a worker to a business owner. And so you're creating the life out of nothing. This business is being born. Before you start the business, it doesn't exist. And the day that you open for business, the business is now born. It exists. So this is why Ganesha is the god of beginnings. He's the god that is the breaker of obstacles. Because what is the greatest obstacle to anything? It is attachment. Attachment to what you think you are, attachment to the illusion. So you must die to whatever illusion you're holding on to in order to create something new. He's the god of death. So people who practice Vedic astrology may know this. They might not have made this connection. But we know that the deity, or one of the deities, that is associated with the south node of the moon, Ketu, is Ganesha. So whenever Ketu comes up, if you're looking for, if Ketu comes up as your, let's say Ketu comes up as your Dharma Devata. In Vedic astrology, there is a term called the Dharma Devata. Dharma means your path, your destiny. And Devata means deity, but in this case, we're talking about a planet. So if Ketu comes up in your Vedic astrology chart as your Dharma Devata, then one of the deities that is recommended for you to do mantra and ritual to is Ganesha. Because Ketu is pretty harsh. So the north and south nodes of the moon are the karmic nodes. Without them, nothing exists. Nothing. We don't call them real planets, and we focus on, we want to focus on, Jupiter and Sun and Moon and Mars and Venus and Saturn and what they're, we get wrapped up in a lot of that. But without the nodes, without the karmic nodes, nothing exists. The karmic nodes, let's go over the story of Rahu and Ketu. So I'm going to give you a lot of information which will help you to, take a look at things from a larger perspective. The story of Rahu and Ketu. So in the beginning of the universe, the celestial gods which the Vedics call the Devis. Originally, they were called Asuras. The gods were called Asuras, which is why in the Norse tradition, the gods are called the Aesir. Comes from the same root word. So, but over time, the words were shifted, and so the Asuras were the names that were given to the earthly gods, which the Vedics started calling the demons. They're not really demons; they're just earthly deities, and so there's a little bit of a bias towards them. But they're really earthly deities; they're not demons at all. And so the Devis and the Asuras are always fighting each other. But originally, in the early Vedic tradition, the gods were called Asuras. You hear that in the ancient Persian, because the Persians and the East Indians are ethnically the Vedics, I should say, the Vedics and the Persians are ethnically connected. They're the word Ahura Mazda, the being, the patron god of the ancient Persians, Ahura, Asura, same thing. So the Devis and the Asuras were trying to get the nectar of immortality. And so they're stirring the cosmos with this snake, Vasuki, I think his name is, and he represents the spinal column, and they're stirring the ocean of milk to get the nectar of immortality to come to the surface. And so they're both working together, the Asuras and the Devis, the celestial gods and the terrestrial gods. Now, the celestial gods come up with a conspiracy. Want to talk about conspiracy theories? Here's a conspiracy. The celestial deities came up with a conspiracy to rob the Asuras of their rightful connection to the milk of immortality, the nectar of immortality. And so Vishnu comes up with a plan, and he is going to dance around. He's going to transform himself into this beautiful, sexy belly dancer woman. And so, the earthly gods are, of course, they're all about procreation and sensuality and pleasure. And so, as they're all sitting down, waiting to have, get their sip of the nectar of immortality, Vishnu turns himself into this stripper, basically. And he's dancing around in his thong, and he's got this perfect, sexy, beautiful, female body. And all of the Asuras, their jaw is on the ground. They can't believe what they're looking at. They're totally distracted. And the plan is that while they're distracted looking at him shaking his ass, they are going to, the gods, the celestial gods, are going to drink all of the nectar of immortality. Now, there's one Asura who is a serpent. And this serpent has been given a boon by Brahma. Brahma has given him permission to drink the nectar of immortality. But because Vishnu himself has made the decision that he is not going to allow any of the Asuras to drink, his fate. He's got this dual fate going on. He's going to get the nectar of immortality because Brahma has said he will, but Vishnu is intended to make sure he doesn't get it. So what ends up happening is that this serpent is sitting there, and he's disguised. He's disguised himself as a celestial deity, a Devi. And he's sitting between the sun and the moon, the soul and the mind of the universe. And as Vishnu is dancing around and he's bringing this bowl, the nectar of immortality, I don't know which one was first, but either the sun or the moon drinks it and then hands it to this serpent. And the serpent goes to drink it, and maybe his glasses come off. He's got his dark glasses on, and his glasses come off, and all of a sudden, the sun and the moon see him for who he truly is, and they scream, "Kill him! He's a demon!" And so Vishnu pulls out his chakra, chops off the serpent's head. But as he's swallowing He's swallowing the nectar of immortality. He becomes immortal. But Vishnu chops his head off. So you can imagine as he's drinking the nectar of immortality, he's thinking, he's obsessed with all of the power he's going to gain, with all of the things he's going to do with his power, all of the, the harem he's going to create for himself, his palace, all of the things he's going to enjoy, the physical pleasures of life, the food, the the silk sheets, everything. He's going to have all the possessions of the world. He is thinking of it. His head gets chopped off. And so Rahu is the head of the snake, the north node of the moon, and he represents what brings us into manifestation, because we are manifested because we want to experience our pleasures. This is why I rail against the Abrahamic tradition, especially Christianity, that teaches that your job is to come here and do God's will and to carry your cross and to carry your burden, and life is misery and just wait for the next life. That is not why you incarnated. You incarnated because you had desires that you wanted to fulfill. There was pleasure that you wanted to have. And this is Rahu. So Rahu represents the obsessions that we can never get satisfaction of, because since he doesn't have a stomach, every time he eats something, it falls out through his neck. Every time he sees a beautiful woman he wants to make love to, he can't because he doesn't have a body, so all he can do is watch. That's why he's the significator of pornography, where you watch and you lust after something you can't have. You go to the strip club and you sit there and you lust after women so much that you throw money at them. You don't get to touch them. You try and touch them, some bouncer's going to come and drag you outside. That's Rahu. You lust for what you want, but you can never fulfill it. So Ketu is the opposite of that. Ketu has no head. Ketu is just the body of the snake. So Ketu has no desires. He has no desire for the physical world because he can't see it. He can't see it, he can't hear it, he can't sense that. But what he is connected to is the power of death. So for him, he wants to get to the truth, the essence, because he is aware, because he's not blinded by his senses, he's not blinded by his eyes, or his ears, or his mouth, or his nose. He can't smell anything, he can't taste anything, he can't see anything, he can't hear anything. Because of that, he's not blinded by the illusion of this Maya. So he has no desires. His only desire is to go back into the void and be with ultimate truth, which can only be in the spiritual realm. So he represents the spiritual realm. Now that sounds very wonderful. Like, oh, I want that. That sounds beautiful. Except that wherever Ketu is, he brings sadness and misery. Because what he does, because he doesn't have any discretion, he also doesn't have any empathy. So, he can't look at you and go, oh gosh, this is tough. I know this is tough. Listen, you're going to die now, but here, let me give you your last meal and I'll make it easy for you, and I'll chant some hymns and I'll show you visions of the afterlife. And he doesn't do that. He has no compassion. He takes you out of your illusion. So whenever Ketu shows up, or whenever you go through a period of Ketu, you're going to lose. You're going to lose something. Somebody's going to die. Something's going to be taken from you. You're going to lose money. You're going to lose whatever it is that attaches you to this world. He's going to get rid of it. And he's going to do it with no finesse. The highest vibration of Ketu is the monk who sits in the forest with his begging bowl, and all he wants to do is meditate and become one with the universe. And he doesn't care about his body. He's just all about becoming one with infinity. And the lowest vibration of Ketu is terrorists. specifically suicide terrorists, suicide bombers. Think about the mindset of somebody who's walking in strapped with a bomb and they are going to end their life and destroy you for some spiritual ideal. This is the lowest vibration of Ketu. So whenever Ketu shows up, it's going to be like that. It's like a bomb goes off and destroys whatever he's associated with because he wants to get to the truth. So I'm getting to Ganesha. Ganesha, now, if you know anything about Ganesha, Ganesha is seen as a very benevolent deity. Ganesha gives. Ganesha is a giver. He gives luck. He gives progeny. He gives finances and money and success and knowledge. He gives. He's not trying to take things away. So how did we come about that? He's still the god of death and the god of rebirth. So Ketu is just the god of death. So what we're doing is we're taking the Ketu aspect and we're putting the death and we're adding rebirth to it. This is why Ganesha is a boy. He's not an adult. He's a boy. He's a boy with an elephant head. So I've got him right here. So this is, he's fat for a bunch of reasons. One is because he encompasses all of the world, so his belly represents the whole universe. But it's also because he's a little kid. And if you know, little kids lots of times are chubby. And so this body is the body of a boy, of a chubby boy, with the head of a baby elephant. That's what's sitting right there, is the head of a baby elephant. So why does he have the head of an elephant? What does all that mean? And how do we tie this together? So in order to understand that, we need to know the mythology of the birth of Ganesha. So this is a very fun and interesting story as well. I don't remember which Vedic scripture it is, but anyway, somebody out there knows. So one day, Shiva decides that he's going to go off and meditate. By the way, in case you forget, subscribe. Click the bell button. If you want your own astrology reading and you want to know where Ketu is in your chart, go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. All right, so Shiva goes off. He goes off to meditate. And when Shiva meditates, he loses all track of time. So it's not like he's going to say, yeah, I'm going to go meditate for a few minutes. For him, a few minutes is, a few billion years. He can't tell the difference because he goes into that emptiness and he becomes one with everything, and there is no time, there is nothing. There's no differentiation at all. So, Shiva's a lot like Ketu in that his desire is just to get to the truth. And once he's in his meditative state, he doesn't care about anything. He has no desires, he has no attachments. Now, his wife, Parvati, Shakti, the mother of the universe, she's the exact opposite. She is attachment. She is the mother. She gives birth to what? To attachment. There's nothing wrong with that. There would be no life without that. But in order to be a human being, you have to have Kundalini. And let me set you straight on what Kundalini is. Kundalini is not the life force energy that gives you moksha. Kundalini is the psychological energy that attaches you with your desires to this illusion. That's why it's feminine. It's Shakti. Shiva is emptiness. Shakti is stuff. She wants things. And she wants to create the illusion. She loves it. It's a beautiful thing. She creates the illusion, and through that illusion, we have life. So, Shakti is left alone, and Shiva's gone, and he doesn't come back. And once he's in his meditative state, even she can't reach him. Nobody can reach him. And she's waiting and waiting and waiting, and she gets angry. Have you ever kept your woman waiting? I mean, they keep us waiting. Hey, honey, let's go. The show starts at 4:30. Okay, I'll be ready at 4 o'clock. She's going to be ready at 4:23 in 30 seconds. You'll just barely get in. Oh, I had to put my makeup on or whatever it is. She'll keep you waiting, but you better not keep her waiting. You sure as hell better not do that. So Shiva's keeping her waiting. And she gets angry and lonely and starts to make things up in her mind. You ever had that? Ever had that happen? She starts to make things up in her mind about what he's doing and all that kind of stuff. So because she's so lonely and so angry, she goes and takes a bath. And when she's in the bath, she's washing herself and she's taking the dirt off of her own body because she is the earth. So she takes the earth off of her own body and she creates out of the clay, out of the dirt, she creates a boy because she needs to connect with something. Now, he is 100% her child. He is not the child of any other man. He is only the child of the earth mother. And so he knows no other parent and no other God but his mother. So because he is made up of earth, he is attachment to this earth. He is the concentrated attachment and her desire to create the Maya and the illusion. And she makes him and, of course, connects with him and she loves him. And then she says to him, go stand out in front of the house, the front door, and don't let anybody in. I am taking a bath and I do not want to be disturbed. She's still angry. Even though she created the boy and has connection, it's not enough. It's not Shiva. It's not enough. She's angry. She's very angry now. She's very lonely and she's hurt and she's going to sit in the bathtub and she's going to feel sorry for herself. She's going to brood. And she has told the most powerful being in the created universe, which is her own son, to stand guard in front of the house and don't let anybody in. Guess who shows up? Shiva comes back from his meditations and he wants to come home and he wants to see his wife. He wants to make love to his wife. He's had a hard day at work meditating. And he wants to go and be with his beautiful wife and he's thinking about how much he loves her and how much he misses her. And he comes home and there's this boy standing in front of the front door of his house. And he says, hello, little boy. This is my house. I have to get in. And he says, I'm not letting you in. And Shiva says, this is my house. And he says, I don't know you. This is my mother's house. She told me not to let anybody in. If you try and get in, I'll kill you. Now, Shiva has to step back because, holy crap, this kid is powerful. And he, with his awareness, realizes who this boy is. And he knows it's not his son. It's her own creation. And there's nothing he can say. He has no authority over this being. And so he doesn't want to anger his wife more by killing her child. So he sits there and he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. Vishnu comes over to him and says, hey, man, you can't let that stand. He says, I know, but it's my wife's son. I mean, I can't kill him. She'll be horrified. He says, listen, we got to have balance in the universe, my friend. You are the king of the gods. You're Shiva. You can't let anybody do this to you. You can't. So no matter how hard Shiva tries to talk him out of, this is my house, I'm your stepdad, blah, 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 this kid is having none of it. And he's threatening to kill him. So Vishnu says, you got to do it. You got to take him out. So Shiva opens up his third eye, sends out a laser beam focused on Ganesha. Remember, he's a humanoid boy made out of earth. Vaporizes his head. Falls over dead. Has no head. Now you see the correlation because Ketu has no head. So Ketu is Ganesha. Ganesha has no head. But at this point, he's just this corpse. Maybe he's twitching a little bit, but there's no head left. There's just ashes where his head was. Of course, the moment that this happens, because Ganesha is made out of the body of Parvati, out of the body of the Earth Mother, she feels it. And you hear this blood-curdling scream, and the whole universe shakes. And there's this potential that she is going to destroy all of the manifested universe. You know, I don't even want to try and mimic the. Can you imagine the terror and the ferocity of that scream? And she comes out naked, dripping wet, furious, and everything is shaking, and every being and every deity is shaking in their boots because she is so furious at him. And now she is so mad at him. And, you know, he tries to explain himself. I couldn't get in. He wouldn't let me in. And she says, I don't care. That's my son. You better find a head for my son and bring him back to life right now, mister. So he goes, okay. And he goes looking for a head. He goes looking for the first head he can find. And he finds the head, if depending on one version, it's the head of Indra's elephant. And he takes the head of that baby elephant and he screws it onto the head of that boy and brings him back to life, and whoosh, Ganesha is born. And so that's, everybody loves Shiva and Parvati and Ganesha. They are the family. So now you've got this completely altered deity. Ganesha is the god of the creation of earth because of who he is. So he represents earth and he represents manifestation, because from the neck down, that is exactly what he's made of. From the neck up, he is made up of Shiva's awareness, Shiva's understanding that this is an illusion. And so this is why he is the God of wisdom, because the wisdom that he brings is how to live in the manifested world with the awareness that it's all an illusion, which makes you, if you listen to what I'm saying, gives you the ability to create anything because you're not attached to anything. But you can play the game and enjoy the game of illusion with the wisdom to know that, you know, whatever it is I create, I want it to take me to my higher evolution. So whatever Ganesha blesses you with, even if it's because it's manifestation, a marriage, a business, a child, whatever it is that Ganesha blesses you with that is the beginning of a new life, the effect of that will be to help you evolve and to have a higher awareness as you go through this manifested illusion that you live in. You see that? And you see now why Ganesha is the most powerful god. He is the Lord of death and the Lord of life. He controls both of them. Because he is Ketu, which is, he's the one. I mean, you know, we can call all kinds of beings the god or the goddess of death. But in the Hindu tradition, there's really only one god of death, and that's Ketu. Even when we think of Mahakala, Shiva, the Saturn aspect of Shiva, the great death, Mahakala, the great death, even he can't kill anything unless Ketu has decided that thing must die. Ketu decides, not Shiva. Ganesha, that's why Ganesha was sitting on the end of his arrow, because he had forgotten to ask Ketu, he had forgotten to ask Ganesha for the permission to kill the demon. And that's why Ganesha was sitting there going, what makes you think you can do this without me? You can't just kill somebody without my permission. I have to decide that his life is over. I have to decide that this being has no more karma, has nothing left to learn. I'm the one that decides that, not you. And so Shiva asked for his permission, and then he was able to loose the arrow and kill the demon. So whenever you start something new, you have to be aware that something else must die. And that something else is your own identity associated with that, your own attachment. You want to get married? You have to die to the identity of being single. You want to become a parent? You have to die to the idea of having control over your life. Because you will die to that. You will not have control over your life for at least the next 18 years. And, parents, true parents, their children are more important than their own life. Having a child is death. It's a bringer of death. You will die to your own dreams and your own narcissism and your own illusions. Same with a marriage. You die to your own narcissism because you have to be in a cooperative relationship. I used to not make fun of, but I remember years ago my sister used to talk about her marriage, and he would say, well, the relationship, and she would talk about the relationship like it was its own entity. And I thought, that's just ridiculous. You're your own person. What do you mean the relationship? You're your own person. Knock that off. But nope, it's true. Especially when you really fall in love with somebody. You no longer are an individual. You are a unit, and it is a we. And you never do or think or say anything without thinking about how it affects your partner. And you never do anything without wanting your partner to be part of it. I know that's perfection, and that's not what all relationships are. But trust me, if you ever get one of those perfect, soulmate relationships, you're never alone. It's never just you ever. You've got another half that's completing your thought process. So you have to die in order to get married. You have to die to being single. But Ganesha is rather deceptive because you never see that. The only thing that he focuses on is what you're going to get out of it. You focus on the new beginning. You don't focus on the death. In fact, you're completely clueless. It's a very deceptive way to get you to die to something to be reborn in another way. You never once think about it. You're just thinking about, I want to get married, I want my new business. You're not thinking about what you're dying to. And that's the way it should be. Because if it was just Ketu, Ketu would just come and destroy whatever it is. He just comes and destroys it. And there's never this feeling of what comes after it. So in order to perfect the energy of Ketu, we must bring in the power of Ganesha. So there are mantras for Ganesha. I do have, if you go to, let's see if we can find it here. Let's get rid of this link. Let's see, is it this one? Go to courses.thunderwizard.com and you can scroll down to my videos, and I have CDs and videos. In my CD, Mantras of Power, I have a mantra for Ganesha, which I chant to African drums. It's really powerful. The Mula mantra, the base mantra of Ganesha. So you can also just look for it on YouTube. If you look for it, you'll find it. And I also have a DVD called, I think, Ganesha Mantras. I think it's just called Ganesha Mantras. And so you can learn about the different mantras of Ganesha. Now, what I didn't do in that is explain to you that there are 12 mantras of Ganesha for each one of the signs. And so you can empower Ganesha in each one of your signs. And if you know where your if you know where your Ketu is placed and you know what sign it is, you can do the mantra for that sign. And if it's real simple, all you got to do is go online and type in the 12 avatars of Ganesha and or the mantra, just type in the right mantras for the signs, the 12 signs, Ganesha mantras for the 12 signs, and they'll come up. So you can experiment with that if you choose. I don't normally tell people go online and look for mantras because mantras are very specific and they work with specific deities. that are aligned with specific planets. And even if you have the right planet and you found a deity associated with the right planet, it might not be the right deity for you based on your chart. But Ganesha is very user friendly. And except for don't get me wrong, there are some hardcore tantric Ganesha mantras. By the way, tantra has nothing to do with sex. Tantra means discipline or procedure, technique. So real tantric magic is not sex. It's got nothing to do with that. It means knowing how to set up a ritual and a mantra and working with a deity, and the rules are very specific. And if you don't follow the rules exactly, all kinds of nasty things can happen. The energy gets all messed up. So there are some tantric Ganesha mantras which you don't want to mess with unless you've been, given it by somebody who knows what they're doing. But many of the Ganesha mantras, I say this, and I've done a lot of Ganesha mantras, and I can tell you, every time that I do a Ganesha mantra, it is extremely powerful. I mean, there are times I've ended up in bed with my back thrown out because I was doing a Ganesha mantra. Very powerful stuff. So anyway, those are some thoughts about Ganesha, the god of death. Again, go to courses.thunderwizard.com to see all the stuff that I have. But if you want, let me get rid of that. If you want to, is this the one I want? Okay, if you want to learn my method of Vedic astrology, which is very specific, you can go to 241.thunderwizard.com, and there, for the month of May only, you will get both my Vedic astrology certification, and my rune certification. You'll get your own page on my website. You'll be able to, if you want to, and you put the time and effort, you can create your own astrology business or rune reading business. And you can just learn. If you're just interested in learning, you can learn. Now, normally you have to buy these things separately, but for the month of May, you can get both of them for the price of one, 2for1.thunderwizard.com. If you want to get a reading from either me or from one of my certified apprentices, then you can go up here to astrology.thunderwizard.com. Okay? And there are a couple of my astrologers have some specials going on, I believe. So you can get a much reduced rate, and you can ask, where is my Ketu? In what house and in what sign? And then you'll have some awareness of that aspect of death, as it's in your chart. The thing that you mastered in previous lives that you no longer care about, but which is still empowering you towards your Rahu, towards your desires. And so you can then be able to research which Ganesha mantra might be associated with where your Ketu is, what sign it's in. Okay, so that's it for me right now. I'll talk to you guys soon.